Does it do it?
Yeah.
Do you see this problem?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, let me see a circle.
Problem number 1. Arc sine root 3 over 2. So if you are doing arc sine, arc cosine, and arc tangent, let's do a quick review. Where are you? Arc sine, positive in 1, negative in quadrant 4. Arc tan, same thing. Arc cosine, positive, or is it negative? 2. Yeah. Okay, gotta know that. So, for number 1. Number 1.
So you can put that back up real quick.
Sure. Sure. Good? Okay, problem number, you want to look at your ratio. If it's positive, what quadrant are you in? You're always in quadrant 1 if it's positive, no matter what. So I want to know, why am I calling this root 3 and this 2? Because sine is defined as opposite over hypotenuse. So can you please tell me, look at your triangle. What angle are you? 60 degrees. How do you write 60? Okay, number 2. In what quadrant is arc cosine negative? You're in quadrant 2. So I need the name of this angle. If you want to do it in quadrant 1 first, so 1, 2, root 3, which this is also a 60-degree angle, but you want the angle that's 60 in quadrant 2. So what answer is this? 2 pi over 3. Yeah.
Mr. G said it has to be in like the first or the fourth. If it's like cosine, so it would be nice.
This is negative, so it's in, these are inverse ones.
That's what it would be negative pi over 3. Isn't that the same?
No, it's 2 pi over 3. You're in quadrant 2, and this angle is, this ratio is negative. This is a negative 1, and this is a 2. This is a 2 pi over 3 angle. You're in quadrant 1 if it's positive, 2 if cosine is negative. Number 3, where are you at for arc cosine? Your domain is from here to here. So I need to know, what's the definition of cosine? Cosine is x over r. Where is the x value from here to here, negative 1? Pi. Okay, next one. Okay, if you want to look at your circle, and you want to look at where is pi over 6, 11 pi over 6, where's 11 pi over 6? It's right here. Here's your circle. Here's 11 pi over 6. So that means, what angle is this? This is a 30. So if you were to draw your triangle, this would be negative 1, 2, and this is the square root of 3. So what is the sine from here to here? This answer right here would be negative 1/2, right? The sine of 11 pi over 6 is negative 1/2. So now I want to do an inverse problem, and if the ratio is negative, where did we say we are for sine? We're in quadrant 4. What angle is this now? It's a negative 30, so negative pi over 6. Get it? Okay, next one. cosine of 2 pi over 3. Well, where is 2 pi over 3? It's right here. From here to here is 2 pi over 3. So we're looking at, this is a 60-degree angle right here. This is 60 from here to here. So this side is root 3. This is 2. This is a -1. So what is the cosine of this angle? It'd be -1/2, because it's in quadrant 2. So -1/2. And now, what angle are you whose inverse, whose side opposite over hypotenuse is a -1 to 2 ratio? Well, now we have to be in quadrant 2, because it's 1 if it's in quadrant 1 if it's positive, 4 if it's in quadrant, if it's negative, it's in quadrant 4. So we're gonna call this -1, this 2. What angle is this? What kind of 30? It's a -30, so -pi over 6. Because you're in quadrant 4, sine is negative for arc sine. Next one. What at pi over 2, which is located right here, which this ordered pair is 0, 1, this is pi over 2. What is this ratio? Well, you have to know what the definition of sine is. Sine is the y value over the r. So what's the y value right here? 1. So this whole thing is equal to 1. So now I want to know, what angle are you whose side opposite over adjacent, because that's what tangent is a 1. What quadrant are you in? What quadrant? 1 or 4? 1 or 4. You're in 1. So what angle are you whose side opposite over adjacent is 1? Pi over 4. Next one. What angle are you whose side opposite or adjacent over hypotenuse is this 1 to 2, 1 over root 2? This is a 45. So this is a 45, or right here. So now I want to know, what is the sine of 45? So if you have a 40, look at your triangle. This would be 1, 1, root 2. So 1 over root 2, better yet, root 2 over 2. Cosine, inverse cosine, root 3 over 2. What quadrant are you in? It's a positive ratio, so you're in quadrant 1. Label this side root 3, this 2, and this 1. What angle is this right here? That's a 30, which is pi over 6. So now what is the tangent of a pi over 6 angle? What's the tangent? What's the ratio here? 1 over root 3 or root 3 over 3. Okay, next one. This is an inverse problem. What quadrant are we in? Are we in 1? We're in 4? We're in 2. This is where you go to this piece right here. You're in, if it's negative, you're an angle in quadrant 2. So you are an angle in quadrant 2. And all the angles in quadrant 2 are between pi over 2 and pi. So I need to know, if we label this side 1, -1, and this side 2, and this root 3, what angle is this? This is a 60, but what's this? This is 2 pi over 3. Yes or no? Do you get it? Hold stop. 2 pi over 3. So now I need to know, what's the sine of 2 pi over 3, which is the same angle, but I need the ratio. 2/3 pi, what's the sine ratio? Root 3 over 2. Okay? The next 3. All right, I want you to evaluate these without a calculator. So, first of all, always start in the middle. Tell me what quadrant you're in. You have it narrowed down to one of the 4 quadrants. It's where? 2, good. Now, because it says cosine, we call this side -3 and this side 5, right? Adjacent over hypotenuse. What's this side? Because you need to know it. Because we now have to figure out the sine of this angle right here, which is, this is what kind of a 4, positive or negative? Positive, because y is positive in quadrant 2. So what would the answer be here? 4/5. Yes.
How did you find out it was 4?
If you did, this is a, one of the special triangles, 3, 4, 5 triangle. Or how would you figure this side out? -3 squared plus y squared equals 5 squared. So 9 plus y squared equals 25, subtract 9. And what's the square root of 16? 4. So if you wanted to use the Pythagorean theorem, you can. But most people know this is, once you have 3 and 5 here, that's a 4. Okay, what about this one? Where am I? Why 4? Why 4? Because it's an arctangent, and arctan, when it's negative, you're in 4. So how are we gonna label what gets what side? Am I gonna put a 2 here, a 2 here, -2 here, a 5? Remember, the radius is always positive. Now your job is to figure out what, whoops, I'm sorry, I did something bad. This should be a 5, because it's tangent. Tangent is opposite over adjacent, right? If it said sine, if it said arc sine, then you would have had -2 here and a 5 here. Oh, that's a good question. All right, so now what are we gonna do? Yeah, Pythagorean theorem. We have 5 squared plus -2 squared equals your radius squared. So 25 plus 4 is what? 29. So what is your radius? Yeah, square root of 29. Ignore the negative, right? So this is root 29, this side right here. So can you tell me what the sine is now? What's the definition of sine? Opposite over?
58 over
Is there a better answer?
-58.
This is good. Better. Last one. I'm going to give you one with a variable. Okay, so start here first. Tell me what quadrant you're in, 1 or 2? 1, because it's a positive D. I'll start with quadrant 1. Now, how am I gonna label the sides? I can make a ratio, D over 1. D is the adjacent, 1 is the hypotenuse. What is the y value? So what are you gonna do? You're gonna do D squared plus question mark squared is equal to 1 squared, right? Okay? So what is question mark squared? It's 1 minus D squared, because I brought this over. And what is question mark by itself? It's root 1 minus D squared. So this side right here is the square root of 1 minus D squared. So now if I ask you what's the sine of this whole thing, what would you say? Square root of 1 minus D squared. By the way, you can't simplify that anymore, over 1. What if I would have had tangent here? What if I would have put a tangent word here? It'd be square root of 1 minus D squared over D. What if I would have put a cotangent here? It would have been cotangent, it would have been D over that. Okay, so just, these 3 you need a calculator for. And you can type them in exactly the way you see them on your calculator. Yes. Sure, but go under because I'm digging in. Alright, so here's the answers that you should get for these three. Please make sure you can do them on your calculator. Negative 0.584 for number 13. Type it in your calculator exactly the way you see it. Number 14 is 1.460. And number 15, it ends up being -0.667, which is negative there. Yeah. Okay? So far, okay? All right, now the back side, if you read the directions, it says, find all solutions. What does that mean, all? What does it mean, all? If it's sine or cosine, what do you do? Yep. And if it's tangent, we can be kind of lazy and write plus or minus k pi, right? On these ones, because it says find all. So now, for number 1, what do I want to do? I want to get this cosine x by itself. So I would add 1, divide by 2. Okay, always look, we're in quadrant 1. We're in quadrant 1. Always start, ignore the negative, if there was one. What angle am I whose side adjacent over hypotenuse is a 1:2 ratio? This would be a √3. This is a 60. How do you write 60? Pi over 3. And then add and subtract 2k pi. Where else is cosine? What other quadrant is cosine positive in? 4. Look at your circle. It's already done for you. Look at the circle that you just drew. What angle has a 3 in it in quadrant 4? Yeah, so it's 5 pi over 3. Okay, next one, number 2. You got your unit circle. From 0 to 2 pi. Can you tell me, what is the definition of sine? It's y over r. Where is the y value gonna be 0? Where is y equal to 0 on this unit circle? Here and here. So, how can you write this answer? What you could do is you could write 0 plus or minus 2k pi and pi plus or minus 2k pi. I would take that, that's a good one. Is there a shorter way how could I change this answer what would you write? If you do that, guess what you're doing? You're picking up that answer, and you're fine. I take it. I give you full credit for that. Okay, number 3. How can I get tangent x by itself? By subtracting 1. Right? So, ignore your negative, draw in quadrant 1, opposite, adjacent. What angle am I? It's a 45, 45 pi over 4. But it's a tangent negative. What 2 quadrants is tangent negative? It's quadrant 2 and 4. You're here and here, negative. So what are those angles that are named with a 4? 3 pi over 4 and 7 pi over 4. Plus or minus 2k pi, right? How can I be lazy and not write it this way? This is one answer. How else could I have written this answer? 3 pi over 4 plus or minus 2k pi. And you'd be okay. Because if you add pi, you're going to get 7 pi over 4. You got it? Do you guys get this? Okay, good. Good, good, good. All right, next one. Cosecant. Ooh. We don't do cosecant. What do we do? 1 over. So we're going to find the reciprocal of both sides. If we do 1 over, what are we really doing? You're doing sine 2x equals 1/2. Now, beware, that 2 there. All right, so let's pretend like it says sine of x is equal to 1/2. Let's pretend. So we are gonna draw quadrant 1, 1, 2, root 3, right? What angle am I? Oops, I drew it wrong, right? I drew it wrong. Sorry, guys. Ignore that. Sorry. 1, 2, root 3. There. What angle is this? 30. This is a 30, so pi over 6 plus or minus 2k pi. And where else, and what other quadrant is sine positive in?
2.
2. So it's 5 pi over 6. You got your unit circle there, right? Now, are these the 2 answers? No. Why? Because that's equal to 2x. We have to set these each equal to 2x and do what?
Divide each side by 2.
Divide everything by 2 or multiply by 1/2. So what's your first answer going to be? Pi over 12 plus or minus k pi, and what's the other answer? 5 pi over 12 plus or minus k pi. Good. Okay, now what's different about number 5? Number 5. Okay, we would first do what? Divide by 2. So it says sine x over 3 equals negative 1/2. So I'm going to ignore the negative for a minute. I'm going to draw my triangle and still say it's a 30. So pi over 6. But because of the negative in front of the negative, in front of the 1/2, where am I really? We're in 3 and 4. And what are the name of those angles in 3 and 4 that have a 6 in it? 7 pi over 6 and? Yeah. Now we would set this equal, add and subtract 2k pi. But this is not a 1x problem, right? It's a x over 3. So you're going to set this to x equal x over 3. Now, what are you going to do here now? Multiply everything by 3. If you were to multiply each of these by 3, can you give me the 2 answers? Yeah.
I've got a question. Can you just do negative pi over 6 instead of 11 pi over 6?
You can on that, but I'd rather you, that's fine. For that one, if you want to do that, that's fine. You can. For that one, you can. I'll accept it. But I'm trying to keep you guys on the same path here. So, I'm going in this direction. But yeah, you could go backwards. So you could write negative pi over 6. But then how did you get the other one? Did you have 7 pi over 6?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. So multiply these by 3. And what 2 answers do you get? If you multiply this by 3, what's your fraction here?
21.
Instead of 21 pi over 6, can you simplify it? 7 pi over 2. Good. 7 pi over 2. 7 pi over 2. And what's this one going to be? 11 pi over 2. And what are you adding and subtracting now? 6k pi. Good? Add or subtract 6k pi. Okay. How about number 6? What would you do here? Number 6, you're going to add 1, divide by root 3. So you have tangent x over 2 equals 1 over root 3. So let's look at what angle this is. It is a what angle? 30, 60, 45, help me out. It's a 30, so it's pi over 6. Pi over 6. Now, if you want to do both of them, you can. But what other one would be the angle in quadrant 3? What other angle would it be? It'd be 7 pi over 6. Now, if you want to do it the long way and add 2k pi, and then set this equal to x over 2, you can do that. And then multiply this by 2, multiply this by 2, multiply this by 2, multiply this by 2, this by 2, and this by 2. So what are your two answers? Pi over 3
minus 4k pi.
4k pi, and what else? I got 7 pi over 3.
Plus 4k.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, number 7. Number 7. This is without a calculator. You're going to GCF this one. So set them equal to 0. If you swing sine of x over to the other side, you're going to subtract it, right? So now what do I take out of this? Sine of x, and then times, help me out, tan of x minus 1. Now what do? Set each of these equal to 0. I want to see this factoring process that you got here. So I can give you some points. So sine of x is equal to 0, and tan x minus 1 equals 0. So let's figure these out. I want to know from 0, here's the directions on this set. I want from 0 to 2 pi going in the positive direction. So what's the definition of sine? It's the y value over the r. Where is the y value 0?
0.
0 and pi. So those are two answers. Now how about this one? What are you going to do? Swing 1 over. And I want to know, what answers are these? This one is what? Pi over 4, and there's another one that you have to list.
3 pi.
3 pi over 4?
Oh, no, 5 pi over
5 pi over 4. Look at your circle.
4. You're right, yeah.
You want to be in quadrant 1 and 3.
I wasn't thinking.
So there's 4 answers. 0, pi, pi over 4, 5 pi over 4. Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
So it would be, like the y is 0 and.
Yeah, y is 0.
Oh, pi is 0.
Yeah, y is 0. Sine is y over r, and the y value is 0 at 0 pi. Okay, how about number 8? Number 8, what are you going to do? This will be factorable. How do you factor this?
2x and x. I'm tripping.
Right? So really, this is 2x plus 1 equals 0. So x is negative 1/2, and x is negative 1. Can you get to that point? It's algebra. Now, what's the magic word that goes in front of x? Cosine. If it was sine, you put sine. If it was tangent, whatever it is, it'll be one of them. So now I have to solve these two. So what I do, this is how I do it. I ignore my negative. I always draw something in quadrant 1. 1, 2, root 3. What angle am I? Get the base. It's a 60, pi over 3. But is that the answer? I want to be negative. So what are the names? What two quadrants am I in? 2 and 3. 2 and 3 are cosines negative. So what's the name of those two angles that have a 3 in them? Yeah. So those are two answers. Those go on the blanks. And now, where is cosine? What's the definition of cosine? X over r. Where's the x value? Negative 1. Isn't it right here? Isn't x -1? Right there? What angle is that? Pi. So these three are those three answers. Yeah,
It has 4 spaces, just
just leave it. Just leave it. Only list the three. All right, now, these ones are back to the calculator.
Yeah.
Now, you need this piece of information. Draw this at the top of your page on this one. This is something you want to make sure you have down pat. Theta, pi minus theta, pi plus theta, 2 pi minus theta, okay? So now, how do you do these on a calculator? Ignore
Inverse.
the what? Ignore the what? Negative. So you're gonna type in your calculator. Don't do the negative, because it's gonna give you the wrong answer here. So, do that, and tell me what answer you get. What's your theta? 1.25? Okay, so depending on how you round, and I'm gonna have you guys, I think, round to the 100, I'm gonna have you round to 2 places, just to make it, it says 3 here, but I'm gonna make it easy. So, can you get that? I'm gonna give you a point for that. Now, in what 2 quadrants do you want to be in? Where is the sign negative? 3 and 4. So it's gonna be pi plus 1.25 and 2 pi minus 1.25. Now, I decided first hour, I'll be okay with these answers.
Yeah.
Instead of actually pi plus, if you wanna write the decimal answer, fine. If you wanna leave them like that, I'll take it. Is that okay? Make it easy. Pi plus 1.25 and 2 pi minus 1.25. But you better get that theta right. How are you gonna do number 10? 1 over. What's 1 over secant? And what's 1 over 2.18?
I got you.
Did you get 0.46?
Yeah.
Yeah.
0.46.
Okay, so now what do you do here? Inverse cosine 0.46. What do you get for an answer? 1.09. Is that one of your answers? Yeah. Where else is cosine positive?
4.
I'll take that answer, or if you want to do 2 times pi minus 1.09. I'm fine with that. Okay, yes or no? What if it was a negative 2.18? What would you have done then?
Pi minus 1.09.
Pi minus
Plus
1.09 and pi plus 1.09.
Yeah.
Those are good. Okay, 11. When you see 4 terms, you're going to factor by grouping. Out of those 2, what's common? 5 cosine x, and then did you get 5? Whoops, sine x. 5 sine x minus 1. And then for these 2, take out a 4, and you get 5 sine x minus 1. Then what? 5 sine x minus 1 times 5 cosine x plus 4.
Where'd you get the 5 sign in the first one?
We saw a 5 common,
Okay.
and we saw a cosine common.
Yeah.
You get it?
Yeah, but
Now what do you do?
sign,
Yeah.
sign is, it doesn't have anything next to it.
Oh, because it's a type, wait, what do you mean?
We took out the 5, so there's still 5.
What are you guys talking about?
He doesn't know where you got the 5 sign. X from.
Oh, I took this 5 out of here,
Okay,
and there's a 5 left over.
so it just goes to the sign?
Yeah,
Okay, alright, now I'm getting it.
if you multiply these two, you get 25 cosine sine.
Yeah.
And then this times this is 5 cosine x. All right, now set each of these equal to 0. Okay, then what? Help me out. What do we do? And 1 divided by 5. And this one, subtract 4 divided by 5. All right, so now, how do I get this answer right here? I'm gonna hit inverse sine 1/5, and I'm gonna get an answer. Do you get 0.2? You should get 0.2, I believe. And where else is sine positive in? Whoops. Oh, we're gonna write this answer. If you wanna do it the fast way, pi minus 0.2. If you wanna give me the decimal, do pi minus 0.2, right? Yeah? All right, next, how do you do cosine x equals negative 4/5? Inverse cosine 4/5. Get your theta. I believe it is 0.64. So then what?
Pi minus 0.6.
Pi minus,
Pi plus.
why pi minus?
Or it's negative and less actually.
Yeah. Pi minus and minus,
And
and
pi
pi plus. One's a plus and one's a minus. And the very last problem involves the quadratic formula. So, yes,
We don't have to add 2 to
no, because it's the directions are only from 0 to 2 pi. So if you added 2k pi to these ones, it's wrong. It's wrong. You're giving me too much. So for this one, you have to use the quadratic formula. X is equal to the opposite of b, so b is negative 2, opposite of b, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c. All over 2 times a. Your job is to turn this into 2 decimals. Well, first let's simplify it. Can you simplify this? 2 plus or minus 2 root 3 over 1, or over 2, sorry. And then if you had to simplify it more, what do you get? 1 plus or minus root 3. Those are your 2 x values. You have to turn them into decimals. What are the 2 decimal answers? 2.73. And it's a sign problem. And what other one?
Negative 0.7.
Yeah. Okay, now, this is where you do your inverse sine. But when you do this one, what happens? You get an error message because this number for sine and cosine can't be bigger than 1. So this one is no solution on this side. Okay, but what about this one? This one you can do. So you're gonna hit inverse sine 0.73,
Oh, whoa.
0.827,
0.81.
and what are you gonna write for 2 answers?
0.827 and pi minus 0.827. Oh, no, not those ones. The other ones that aren't those ones.
Which ones?
Pi plus
What 2 quadrants are you in?
The 3 and 4.
You're in 3 and 4.
Pi plus
So it's
0.827,
pi
2 pi
plus
minus 0.827.
0.827, and what other ones?
2 pi minus 0.827.
Now, are you guys okay to write it like this? Or if you want, write them as decimals. Can you stop the record?